1 in 4 people suffer from a mental health issue every year.
We want to be part of the change when it comes to opening up about men's mental health.
Back Onside was something that we'd seen across social media for probably the last year or so. It was something that I was keen to, done a bit of research and keen to get involved in as soon as I found out what they were all about.
I think there's a few guys that we'd played football with and against that they'd done some things for Back Onside, particularly a guy called Lee Mayer that you played with and I played against that did a charity run. I think it was 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours and it was quite a grueling process, and to see him go through that for that charity made me want to look more into it and why he'd put himself through that.
Yeah, I think it led on to us making a product that we could create something that we could help the charity out in any way we could. So we decided to come up with a cap with a message in it, with a bit of thought process in it, that it just wasn't any other product. It wasn't just a t-shirt or with a logo on it. It's actually got some messaging inside the cap. So
yeah, it was a full team effort. It wasn't just myself and Stephen that came up with it. The design team, the marketing team, we all got together and looked at sort of various products we could do. I think it was jeans discussed, hoodies, and we just felt that they didn't really fit in with the charity. But we eventually sort of settled on a cap idea that
used a bit of the Be Inspired branding as well as the Back Onside logos.
Yeah,
with some messaging inside it.
Yeah, and obviously with a cap, it goes on your head. So we just felt as though that really tied in together really well.
Yeah. With all the caps, comes a little call card. There's some charities in there that we felt were important, with some phone numbers there. So if anybody needs to reach out to them, they've got any issues or worries, then their cards are there to help out.
Obviously we are giving all proceeds to charity, and we just thought of that from a monetary point of view, but we didn't really understand what that was, and we've since learnt it's 20 people get 3 months worth of one-to-one sessions, which is amazing news. Obviously if we can just help one person, that's brilliant, but being able to help 20 is an amazing feeling.
Welcome to a special episode of That Mental Health Chat, a podcast brought to you by Back Onside, the mental health charity, and this episode comes to you in partnership with Be Inspired Clothing. We're back here in the cracking G4 podcast studio, and what a lineup we have. I'm joined by ex-footballers Stephen Robb and Mark Corcoran, the duo behind clothing company Be Inspired, as well as St Johnstone goalkeeper Zander and Motherwell striker Tony Watt. Welcome, guys.
How you doing?
How we all doing? All right?
Good. Are we all right?
Aye.
So, just as a wee sort of introduction, I thought we'll go straight into why we're here. So we're here because of Back Onside and Be Inspired having a collaboration for a new cap that's going to be brought out. So exciting stuff. And I think importantly we could start just around the table, just about our guests, who we've got, what we're up to, and start with Tony. Tony, a wee bit about yourself.
Footballer, obviously joined by an half footballer and a couple of successful businessmen who are ex-footballers, so it's good to be in here and it's good to be talking about things that really matter.
Alright. Guys, what about yourselves? A wee bit about your background to use.
Obviously just played football for a long time, and then obviously when we were coming out of football we didn't really know what we were going to do, and we sort of fell into sort of a clothing company. Me and Stephen had sort of played together at St Mirren, and he'd gone away to Thailand, and we'd obviously kept in touch about like coming to the end of our careers, kind of wonder what we were going to do, and over there he'd managed to find sort of like factories and things that we could sell over here, and at first he'd sent me t-shirts from Thailand, and we were selling them online, sort of on eBay and things like that, and it sort of progressed into like, how about we start our own sort of clothing company, and it just went from there really, and the last sort of 6 years have been a bit of a whirlwind, and we are where we are, so we kind of got a bit lucky, but it's ended up pretty well.
Good stuff.
Kind of just started off as a couple of Dell boys and just wheeling and dealing. That was kind of how it started. It was all just a bit of a hobby to start with.
Yeah.
Obviously coming out of football was a bit scary at that time, just like what you're going to do, what I'm going to do next. So kind of almost fell into this a little bit. So just like Mark says, like last few years have been a bit mental, bit of a whirlwind. So obviously still keeping in touch with certain footballers and trying to keep involved with the game, and just obviously when the option of collaboration with you guys came up, it was kind of an ideal fit for us.
I know it's not something that's big, but it's maybe giving something a little bit back to the game as well, maybe helping out in any way we possibly can, because like I say, footballers have promoted stuff for us for free and helped us get off the ground. So if we can give anything back that maybe helps somebody that in need at that point in time, it'd be great.
Absolutely, I'm sure it'll be very much appreciated. You know, like any sort of help that you can give back to people is always well worth it. Zander, what about yourself? Playing career, where are you just now?
Currently at St Johnson, but obviously same as Tony, just still in the game at the minute and delighted to be there. But it's one of those that when I got asked to come on this, it's obviously for something that's well spoken about, sort of the professional game at the minute, and glad that I can come on and sort of give an insight and speak about it.
Right. Well, obviously, thanks first of all for joining us. One of the things that I think we could kind of start off by talking about is you guys have already touched on it, and it's something that we'll probably kind of covered, but a big thing that sort of come to light, and part of what Back Inside's going to be looking at is players coming to the end of their career. If I could maybe even start with yourself, Tony, is that something you've thought about? I'm not trying to end your career prematurely here, by the way. I'm just that, do you know what I mean?
No, I want to play as long as possible. 35 minimum. But obviously I do my badges and I'm doing my B licence, and then there's wee bits of kind of business ideas you have, or wee bits you've got your fingers in, as you say. And no, I'm not.
Boys talk about it in the dressing room, didn't they?
Aye, I'm
'Cause
not.
that's what we found. We
I'm
always
no-
found after training it would be a case of like, oh, what you
There was a few of us that met up, weren't there? We'd meet up and we'd have a wee discussion about like,
Aye.
we're all getting a bit older, what are we going to do? Do you know what I mean?
No, there's a few things I'd like to do as well. I think there's a few things lacking maybe in certain places as well, that maybe at the end of my career. But now I'm not too fussed about it. Eventually I'll see that the time's right, that you don't want the opportunity to pass, but there is some business ventures I want to do while I'm still playing, but also other stuff I want to do when I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just obviously
sometimes
the timing.
it's hard as well when you're playing as well. Like you have to give 100% to your,
Of course.
your obviously your career.
You
So
don't
it's
want
like,
to be going to meetings
see,
at night
exactly,
and
that's what I
going,
mean. So see if your focus switches. Well, that happened with me. Then when I was playing in Thailand, see for the last 6 months, I wasn't bothered about the football.
Aye.
I was literally going to the factories and doing this, doing that, just like thinking like, oh, I'm going to start a business here. This is and like you end up like forgetting about, I've got a game tomorrow. I'm going to hate to think about that. So
I wonder, would you say like first and foremost you'd think about staying involved in the game after you'd played? Just because when I first stopped, like I didn't really know what I was going to do, so I was like, I did my B license, just like I'm panicking, do the B license, and then I took it from there. But like luckily I fell into something else and I moved away from football. But I think like sometimes it's like stick with what you know. Like,
that's why I done my B licence. I just asked the club to do it in the last, when I was signing another contract. The most settled I've been. I thought, since I'm settled, I can do it in the background, because it's not, the B licence isn't 24 hours a day, it's maybe a couple of hours a week. And I thought,
do you get to do the coaching to the kids at Motherwell?
I will. That's the next stage. Because COVID, I was meant to go and shadow one session a week, and then it depends what age group, but some of them play on a Sunday, so I could actually then go and watch them on a Sunday. And just, I was speaking to girls the other day about it. See when we do a warm-up, maybe it's different for kids doing warm-ups, 15, 16-year-olds, what they need to be taught rather than what we get taught. So if I went and tried to do what we do in the first team, they'd maybe be like, what's this?
What's
Because
this?
you do, as you evolve, as you evolve as a player, you actually maybe do less coaching as you were when you were young. So I need to go and, for me, the ideal thing would be obviously have a few business ventures on the side, but go and shadow a few younger coaches and see, like coaches for younger players, because then you can see, is that for me or not? I don't want to jump head in. It's like anything, like you're saying, you can go and test the waters a little bit, but you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, because if I don't like it, then there's no point in me doing it, because I won't get 100% if I don't like something. It's just...
I think that's important, because as you said, you probably stick to what you know. And how many footballers maybe get through coaching badges just because it's an option that's there and it's something that you're familiar with?
It's a wage as well for our boys. A lot of boys maybe, say you're at a championship team or high league one team in Scotland and you're earning £500, £600 a week and it's covering your house. When that stops, what they go to earn, and they probably think, I'll get a couple of £100 for coaching, but I'm maybe no good. But it's not as if they can turn around and say, oh, I'm no good at this, then that's fine. But they need to depend on it. That's and it's no fault of their own. That's just the way. I don't think that's what we were talking about before. It's actually refreshing seeing these teams in the lower divisions paying people good money, like your Queen's Park, Kelties and that, because the more money in the game, the better, because it's only got to be
Yeah,
footballers
sure.
that benefit from it. And
Yeah,
you
definitely.
can't grumble at that, because if they're full time, you know what you're doing. You're putting your body through the mire for. Obviously in England it's different. People think you're getting 100 grand a week,
There's
50 grand a week.
Everybody's there's
But
a wrong perception of what, especially in Scotland, what players actually earn.
your Queen of the
Yeah,
Souths and Queen
in comparison with what boys are getting.
Mortons,
down
all
south.
these probably average wage £400-500 a week, and
Yeah,
you know yourself that if you go and get a mortgage, a car, most of that's gone.
that's
Do you know what I mean?
It's gone.
Before you get your electricity, council tax, and all that. So
You've got a decent living while you're playing football, but it's not like
it's
you've
not.
got loads of like. Certainly, if you'd played at like a certain level in Scotland all your life, do you know what I mean?
I
It's
think
like,
that's what a lot of folk don't understand, isn't it? It's sort of everybody just gets tarred with the one brush. Everybody thinks that you're earning, you know, the millions that they make down the road in England. And it's one of them. Touching on the sort of coaching badges, like saying, granted, it's anytime you speak to somebody with football, it's what you're doing after football, you're coaching. It's just they seem to think that that's like the natural progression, but obviously, as Tony says, he's got business ventures that he's got in his mind. I'm pretty similar myself. You know, there's some things that I would like to try out with, you know, coaching. Listen, it doesn't sort of appeal. Well, it doesn't appeal to me, but it's one name that I'd like to go and try something different rather than do the coaching side of it. But it would be good to have in case you know want to fall back on it. You've been in the game a long time, and
there's just not enough coaching jobs out there either.
Well, that's it.
I'm thinking
That's
how
the
many
thing.
players there are in
That's the thing.
comparison with how many
Aye,
coaches there
well,
are.
you imagine 20 players in a squad, 5 members of staff at outside Old Firm, 5 members of staff at Hearts, Hibs maybe for the first team, and a couple of the youth team.
I would say like if you're going to
underneath.
do anything after football, probably like you were saying, 100%. You need like probably what worked for us after football in the business is we put like everything into it.
Yeah.
Put as much as we put into our football career into the business, and that's what worked for us. do
You
know what I mean?
almost become obsessed.
Yeah,
Aye,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
it. Yeah,
Play
like,
play stuff for us,
We
do you know
all
what I
say
mean?
that we're obsessed with it.
Aye.
Like people think, like when it comes to the weekend that you switch off, or like, well, it's like a footballer's life almost, where it gets to Friday night and your mates are all going away out with their pals. and
You're
at a
scranning
party, and you're
pasta
like,
and-
you're thinking about the game tomorrow.
Yeah.
And even when it gets to Saturday night, you're like, I'm off Sunday, but like you're still thinking about the game and then
Aye.
training Monday morning.
Oh, maybe had a bad game, or we
Yeah,
didn't win. I
exactly,
can't go out.
exactly.
And no, I'm trying to. I was on the B license, but I was on the physical prep side of it, and I was saying to them, it's almost as if I'm telling myself I'm a 35-year-old man and just living as if I need to recover my body as if I'm 7-8 years older, because you want to prolong it, because if you go and do well and you continue, what's the point in putting an age on it? Do you know what I mean? What's the point in, because like you say, when you stop, it's not as if you can go 37, 30, I'll just go again and do it. When your football career's done, you're done. You need to you need to treat your body as if it's.
I think sometimes that's maybe why it is so harsh at the end. You know, like when it is over, because you've done that and you've put everything into it, and then it's like, well, for me, like I got an injury, and I knew myself. I was like, can I play? And it's like, what am I going to do now?
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. And it was like a big shock for me. And luckily, like I said, we'd sort of had this thing on the side, like you were talking.
Yeah.
It was like a side venture. I was selling T-shirts to boys in the changing room, and then, like, selling stuff to like.
I'd love you in my changing room, buddy. I love a cheap
I used
bargain.
to go to Montrose with a box. I used to when I was
Back in
at
the
Montrose,
motor
and it was a box. I just chuck it in the car going to training, and I used to come in, and the boys used to call it the whoopsie box. So I had a yellow sticker for Asda. It's a whoopsie box. It's just for a tenner. Basically, we used to put it in.
True,
Boys were
but-
delighted, got their gear for the weekend.
See the thing, right? And I don't know, maybe do you think there's enough emphasis on that as a young player coming up through and getting into maybe a first team? There's enough emphasis on this career's not going to last forever, and by the end of it, you need to start thinking about, or maybe not think about what you're going to do, but have a wee idea as to what you might do towards the end of your career. Do you know what I mean?
I think it's difficult though, because like these boys are saying, like the top level, you have to put everything into it. Because there's another boy that's waiting in the wings that's putting everything into it. So it's probably trying to get that balance of I've got something, but like at the end of the day, you're fully focused on your football career at their age. Do you know what I mean? And like they're fighting off other boys that are trying to get in the team, and it's like it must be like it is difficult to think. It's maybe like I don't know if there's help from outside, like. I think back Onside and maybe doing something. to sort of help. But it's like when I came at the end of my career, like I looked at and maybe wrongly, I looked at like the PFA, like the to help. Like what do I do now? And there wasn't really any help there, which is something that we did at the start. Was like we could maybe give part-time footballers jobs in like the warehouse or the office, and we were trying to get
I seen that actually.
boys involved, like just because I knew how difficult it was when it came to an end. But yeah,
They're giving you like tailor courses and these like, but when you're 35, you don't want to be going doing an apprenticeship. You don't want to be going to do 2 years of not earning. You need to go and earn. So like you say, you need to, like you said, straight in and get a job, and that's what's good for you. Is if you give somebody a job, they're earning and they're getting on with it. And I was alright. I didn't go through an academy till I was 7, 8, but imagine you're 8 years old, all you know is football, and you get to 33, 34. And you've had a good career out of it, maybe you've had your house paid off or something, but you're not going to be able to live with your house paid off, because then you've got your bills still coming in. So you couldn't just retire. People think footballers are just going to retire, but to retire, you're talking you'd need to be a millionaire probably, because
is there no something like about 3% of professional footballers make enough in the game to be able to live off after football?
I think you'd need
to.
It's
a very, very small percentage.
It must only be boys in the Premier
unless you're smart enough where you're getting income every month that then sets you up. But then again, that's still working for you, but based on the money you've earned, it'd be hard to. You'd need to.
It'd be hard to just commit it and stop.
You'd need to.
Just go and live a
you'd need to be.
stress-free life type thing.
You'd need to have obviously a lot of income if you're going to keep up a lifestyle like that, because you get a car, you've got a wife, you need a second car, get council tax to pay, you've got electricity, you've got petrol, you've got your shopping every.
I think it would be good to make the younger kids who are coming through in the youth teams, or even like your 16, 17, 18-year-olds, to understand what's involved with it. Like if it doesn't work out for you, or like there's an injury along the way, it's like, or like say you have a career at you're 34, what you maybe going to, what's your progression after that? Is there anything you like to do, or do you have because I think I say to him, it's like, see, after you leave football and you move on to a career, it's like, I think you have to have a passion for what you're doing. So like literally you have to love what you're.
Do you think a PFA could do that though? And for instance, say an apprenticeship's 3 years and you're a young scholar at 16, do you think instead of going to college for one day, do you think maybe you go and learn a trade or
you can see what the trades are like now, especially
education, or
there's not enough of them.
And batter it over 5 years, and maybe instead of going 40 hours a week, you're doing 10 hours a week for 5 years. And we have you.
It comes down to the boys as well. You can't just always look at the PFA and say the boys have got to go. Like you can't be lazy.
But there needs to be a. But I don't think you'll be able to get into everybody individually. Do you think there needs at PFA just obviously for an example, but do you think there could be
something
that makes them do it? Because I'm the worst. See if somebody says to me, like, I was in Belgium and I was picking up French, but the only way I would have learned French is if the club said to me, you're doing this 5 hours a week for 2 years. Because after a couple of weeks I'd just be like, I'll just turn the PlayStation on, or I'll just go for a nap. Do you know what I mean? But, do you know what I mean? And I don't want to speak to you that much that I need to learn French. And do you know what I mean? But see if there was a structure in place, and I tried to get it at one of the clubs, I said, like, can you make sure I'm doing it an hour before training? We spoke about it and it never really happened, but because I knew the only way I'd learn is if that. And it's like, if somebody wants an apprenticeship or wants a degree or well they're playing, maybe if they're earning £500 a week, saying that as a benchmark, then when you're finished you can go into a job on the same money, because it's not unbelievable money that needs to be, like, it's not as if you're on £100 a week and you need to make that to live your lifestyle. You're still living. Do you think there's a way that
see in terms of, like, I don't know, like, I think that there's a balance, as you guys said, there's a balance obviously between you have to, if you want to be a professional footballer, if you want to be the best at whatever you do, you've got to put everything into it. There's no doubt about that. But obviously, it's the thought of, as you guys said again, if there's an injury or if a club doesn't fancy it and then things drop off.
This could be part of being a professional footballer. That's what I'm saying. It kind of marry it in with that.
So does the onus then maybe becoming a club to say, listen, it's part of you coming
who
up
would it
through
be?
the youth ranks. We understand that you have to give up so much of your education to make training 3-4 nights a week in games, but here's something that
10 options. There's 10 options. You need to choose one, and you've got 2 years to.
A link here,
it's part
Tony.
of the contract almost.
See, like in America, is that kind of what they do? Like,
yeah,
well, they use it as
you've probably come out with like whatever sport they're doing. They've got
NBA, all these.
Well, my young lad's 14, and I'd said to him, "Would you fancy doing that? Like an actual like
Scholarships.
scholarships.
So they base everything around their education. So basically, if you're at high school where no matter what your sport is, you play for the team, other high schools can actually come in and pick you up. So they're put in divisions. So you could maybe be playing for a Division 2 high school, and if you're good enough, a Division 1 will pick you up.
But do you
which
need
opens
to
up.
have a certain amount of education? Like, do you need? Is it like in Coach Carter when you watch
Once
that, you need a
once
grade
it goes
point
to
average and that?
aye,
Is it-
so once it goes
is
to
it-
college, it does. Aye. So once they go through that, and then a college comes in for them, and they can get picked up and get scholarships. Then again, it goes into Division 1, 2, 3 school or colleges, universities, and when they go there, they must maintain a certain grade point average while they're also playing.
Even things like,
you know,
motivation.
100%.
and even things like accountancy, financial management, these things would help people then look after their money and then invest.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there's so many, and it's
fairness, I think like, since obviously when I was coming up through the youth system, I think like these courses now that are available are sort of, I think they are more sort of tailored towards like boys coming up through the youth academies because when I was coming up, it was you go to college for an hour a day and get your ECL or whatever it is.
I was making mac and cheese at college.
Computer course.
It's almost a relative.
The first year I went,
Ticking a box.
We were
Exactly.
buzzing when it was
You've
cake
got
making
that.
week or whatever. You've got them every Glasgow City College and you make a cake, you're buzzing because you can just walk into town after it and you're...
that's what I'm saying. Like, we went to it and we had to go from Perth to Dundee once a week and ended up, we'd never done the computing club. We were doing a fashion show in the middle of Dundee shop. That was literally what we were doing all day long. Like, everything was geared towards this, so it was one of them that probably in the same boat as Tony, I'd need to be forced into it, you know, to sort of commit to it type thing. If it wasn't something that I was choosing.
Clubs don't care. The clubs don't care about that. For clubs,
I suppose it's more business driven.
Care about results.
That's what
Having
really.
said that, we're saying that there's no things available. I know, like Scott Boyd that did like the university online thing. I thought that it was I think the PFA actually did put it on like a degree for, and it was through like a university abroad maybe, and he actually did that, and he's at St John's.
He's up at us now.
I think
Chief
he's done
executive
really
son
good.
now, and he's
Well, I think he
got a
was
high gig.
at Kilmarnock as a player, and he got offered the chief executive at
Ross
Ross
County.
County, and then he left, and he's gone to St
He's on with us
John's.
now. There is, but I think obviously there's a few boys that you know that are sort of older that are doing degrees in that on the side, isn't
A few
there?
of the boys at St John's, that was the first time I'd ever seen that.
Like a couple of the boys are doing sort of open university degrees and that, but again, it's sort of, can you really put everything into it type thing? It's one of them.
It's going to be difficult.
You
isn't
have
it?
a bad training session, go home. The last thing you want to do is open up open
It's
uni.
difficult.
But
I think it's
but
quite a
if
lot
you're
as well.
forced
It's
to,
quite intense.
if you're forced to, and it's part of your routine. I read a book of that Atomic Habits. You heard it?
No.
And it's like, and it's so true. See, like last year, I started adding the gym in the morning. Between like 9 and 10, I'd go to the gym. And see if it was in my everyday schedule, I'd do it. But see, new manager changed and we were getting in training later, and I took it away, and then I'd maybe go to the gym on a Monday, not go on a Tuesday, not go on a Wednesday. I'll go Thursday. But when I had that scheduled in every day for a set time, I'd done it every single day. And it was maybe going and doing 25 pull-ups, 50 press-ups, but it was an improvement.
Took me all week.
Sorry, that's the one session I made the full week. Do you know what I mean though? Like, just integrating it, and it's like yourself. Like if you've got meetings and stuff, if you've not got them wrote down or you don't know what it is, there's got to be a mess up somewhere.
Like we've got diaries on the phone. It's
Aye.
like, mate, we've got like a schedule call
Yeah.
today.
You've
10.
got that, and you
Tell you what to do.
Get
But
on
do
the
you know what I
office,
mean? Like,
she's always at
if
him.
if you've
Here's your
got,
diary, this is what you're doing.
if there could be a scope for that in terms of being made to do something between the ages of 16 and 20, because that's 4 years. You could probably get a 2-year course out of 4 years or even
I
5
think it's
years.
maybe a difficult one to make people. Maybe at the start of the season or whatever, they say, "Do you want to do
offer
this?"
it.
And then once they've done it, then once they've said, "I want to do it," then they get
But
held
even-
accountable to do it. Do you
But
know?
Yeah,
even
yeah.
as part of like your like even if for instance at Marvel you finish training and they say right you're going to a classroom for an hour and a half 2 times a week, that would build up and add up.
It
And
could be like, obviously when you sign like your sort of first YT form, there's the full squad doesn't go in full time. Could be a case of maybe the ones that are in their sort of first couple of years YTs in the morning, they could go and do a course, you know, but their morning could be made up of doing whatever, you know, sort of course that they fancy, and then training at night with the rest of the squad. Do you know what I
Aye.
mean? Because there was times where you'd been training in the morning, but you're not really doing much, and then you're back in at night to train with the rest of the team. Don't know if it could be sort of worked in a way that in the
Used to be
morning,
cleaning boots and that.
Aye,
Yeah.
in the morning.
Now it'd be better to go and do something like
Is that
that.
still,
I'm sure
is
those
a
days
cleaner
are
boot
gone.
still a thing now?
It's supposed to be at our place, but my
Aye,
boots
aye,
are
aye.
bogging.
It's been a while for us. The old COVID just seems to capture it. Nah, we can't touch
That's
it.
because the boy that's doing yours has got a college course every day.
Aye, he better have. He better be account management. He better make me some money.
So something that I will touch on just when we're speaking about that is back Onside are working on an academy, which will partly to benefit guys that have either been released from a club, not got a contract, or are coming to the end of their career. So that's something that we're working on in the background just now. How big a help do you think that will be for guys that are maybe finding themselves in that position?
Like, be big, aye, in terms of, it's, boys have touched on there, it's always that sort of daunting fear that, what if my career's over tomorrow? What am I going to do? And me personally, my career was to finish, tomorrow I've got nothing, I was dropped out of school as soon as I could, and I was one of them that was just always set on football. So I think if you had something that you could drop back into and, like that, try and get something out with football as well as sort of merging it with your sort of football training and trying to get a club, I think it would be something that's definitely sort of
Even
not much yet available.
Even just like a support network, innit?
Aye.
Like I felt very alone. I felt very alone when I finished. Like I'd come for Ross County, I was full time. I'd got an injury. I knew I couldn't play it full time, so I tried to go part time. But I was just sitting in my flat on my own all the time. Do you know what I mean? And I was like, my career's coming to an end. Like, and I did feel quite alone in that. So even just having that sort of other people going through that might help spur somebody on, or like spark an idea, or like people get together and talk about things.
Even
you know
having
what I mean?
like a backup plan. See for a kid coming, or even someone at like late 20s, early 30s, and having that like plan in place for when they're gonna finish. It's almost like a relief. Like I feel when I finished, because I'd had obviously started the business with Mark and things were moving along nicely, and like I had so many back and hip, groin, hamstring problems that like when I did finish at Montrose part time, it was more a relief than anything. That God, did I need to make that 2.5 hour car journey 3 times a week? Do you know what I mean? It was like that was in my head. It's just going. I just felt so relaxed, and I had to. I'll be honest, I didn't miss playing. Like especially at part time, I wasn't cut out to play part. Like boys that play part time, like I take my hat off to them because like the dedication that's involved with that of going to work Monday to Friday, then going. I know they're getting a top up of their wages that they're doing on that, on top of their full time job, but
imagine coming in the door, going out for 6 until 5:30, 6 o'clock, and then going straight to training. You couldn't think of anything worse.
See, the thing is, I did it at the start of my career. I was part time. I was going in Hamilton. I was part time, and then I went full time, and then I went back part time, and I was just like, this is so difficult.
I was the same, but it's because when you're younger, football's your world. But then see when you go full time and that, and then if you went part time again, football would become your secondary because then you need to do something during the day, and then you wouldn't give as much. Automatically, you can't give 100% if it's your second.
Hope at the start of your career that I can go full time.
That was your aim.
Part time, you're like,
get me out this stadium, and I'm never coming. You're right. No, it's.
But again, mixing with like-minded guys. So, so as you say, you're maybe sitting thinking that all the time, like, oh God, I'm not really enjoying this, but you've got nobody really to bounce that off because the rest of the guys are maybe. There could be another 10 boys in the dressing room that are thinking the same, but won't say it. But
probably
obviously,
like Robb coming back, like Robb probably came back for Thailand and moved in with me at that point when we were starting the business, and that probably helped me a lot as well, not just being stuck in the flat on my own.
Well, we were both doing the same things. We were working in recruitment in the city centre, so he'd walk in, work in the morning, come back, and he'd go away to Stranraer, and I'd go away up to Brechin, and then our 3 nights off, that's what we would do, be inspired. It was like Monday, Wednesday.
Do you think, see if you were like, oh no, I'm going to train, do you think you'd be buzzing that at least somebody else needs to go through the pain of going as well? It's true, innit? I know, but if you're going through that, you're like, oh, at least he's doing it as well, so I'll go and do it. And
He was going to Montrose, I was like, he's got it last.
The
only trained the face.
Jeez,
True. But it definitely did help, and like having something to like talk, like obviously the business to talk about as well. Do you know what I mean? Like,
What an obsession was it?
That
Was it
was
an
an
obsession? But see, that would take your mind off so much of the bad stuff because you'd be like, don't care. Like,
see, I worked in recruitment
That's
and they hated
almost
me
it,
because I
but-
was getting like stuff delivered to the office. Do you know what I mean? Like I was getting like t-shirt, like I was getting like 1,000 t-shirts delivered to the recruitment office.
There was VAT bills getting
VAT
sent
bills
to me.
going there. I was like,
Pheasant,
aye, when 1,000 t-shirt turns up the office with a VAT bill, I was like, it's time for me to go, guys. I can't stay here anymore.
Going to the post office at lunchtime.
Aye, spent all our lunch hour like just posting packages in the post
like no
office.
stamp.
Aye,
For an hour.
It's good though.